few weeks ago, I finally got the suppressor for my 300 Blackout build, but I was more concerned with getting this thing to run subsonic ammo than the actual performance of the suppressor itself. So today, we're going to do the actual review of the Witt machine and tool Dirty 30 suppressor. It's a nice compact suppressor, reduced blowback, but it is small, so it's not quite as effective as some bigger cans. But we're going to analyze what it sounds like, what it feels like, how much gas I'm getting back, all of that today. And I'm going to let you guys know how the Witt machine tool Dirty 30 performs. So let's go for it. First, we have supersonic rounds in this magazine, and then we'll run some subs. Knocking over targets. Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. As many of you probably already know, I recently got my very first suppressor, the Witt machine and tool Dirty 30. It's a 30 caliber suppressor for my 300 Blackout SBR. Now, when I first got this, the first two videos that I put out that had anything to do with it really was me trying to tune my little rifle here to run suppressed both super and subsonic ammunition. And so I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention to the effectiveness of the suppressor itself. So today we're finally going to do a real review, an honest opinion of the Witt machine and tool Dirty 30. If that sounds like something you might enjoy, make sure you're subscribed. And let's talk about maybe the most affordable 30 cal suppressor that you can get. So even from those first few shots, I can tell you this suppressor, I don't really notice any extra gas back to the face or anything, which does make it pleasurable to shoot. Oh, you can tell when the subs kicked in. We're running good today. When it comes to firearms, just about every decision you make is going to have trade-offs, pros and cons. And that is especially true with suppressors. And that's going to be a lot about what this video is about, because there are definitely trade-offs with this suppressor. Now, some of the major pros of the Witt machine and tool Dirty 30, number one is going to be price. Suppressors are generally very expensive. And on top of the cost of the suppressor itself, you have a $200 tax stamp, an extortion fee that you have to pay to the government just to get permission to take the thing home. So that's kind of a big deal. You go and you pay for your suppressor, it's $1,000 or something, then you get your $200 tax stamp, and then you have to wait up to a year or sometimes more to even be able to take home something that you already purchased. That sucks. But unfortunately, right now, that is still the reality that we live with under the National Firearms Act, the NFA. You're not going to be able to avoid the tax stamp, unfortunately, unless there is one other way, and that's crime, which we're not going to really discuss on this channel. You used to be able to do Form 1 suppressors where you could buy a solvent trap and file your Form 1, still pay your $200 tax stamp, and then when that was approved, you could drill your holes and manufacture your own suppressor. Kind of like the same thing you can do to make an SBR out of an AR pistol. ATF has cracked down on that in the last year, and really your only real legal options at this point are to go to a gun store, buy a suppressor, pay for the $200 tax stamp, go through the process, wait forever. This one took over 11 months, almost an entire year to get. And with that, I'm going to talk about price as well. When I purchased this, I specifically got this suppressor for a few reasons. One, The first reason, honestly, was the price. The whole thing with Witt Machine and Tool is they want their suppressor to cost you $500, tax stamp included. That means that the suppressor itself is $300. That is a very, very reasonable price for a suppressor. But what do you get for $300? Is it any good? Well, it is. But like I said, there are trade-offs. So the second reason I chose this suppressor specifically is because of the size. It is nice and compact, and I specifically wanted to build this firearm to be very compact. It's got an 8-inch barrel, you got a 4-inch suppressor to that, and you're at 12 inches, and that's suppressed. That is nice and compact, and for this being my home defense build, that is kind of perfect. The great thing about 300 Blackout is that you get full powder burn in about 9 inches of barrel, and you don't really lose any terminal ballistics, any effectiveness by going with a shorter barrel like you do with 5.56. So you can build a very effective 300 Blackout platform and make it very short. And that's one of the big things about 300 Blackout that is extremely attractive to me and to many other people. And so to add a huge long suppressor to my short 300 Blackout build seemed to kind of defeat that purpose. So this magazine is all subsonic rounds. The last one had some supers, some subs in it. I'm sure you could probably tell when I finished off the supers and got into the subs, there was a noticeable difference in sound signature, but also in recoil. Subsonic rounds are nice and easy to shoot. These are all subs. I'm going to shoot the first few rounds just into the hillside instead of at the steel targets, just to see how it sounds. Pretty quiet. Now, 2 more reasons that I specifically chose this suppressor. One of them might seem funny to you guys because I am about function over form, but I like the fact that they make it in flat dark earth and that it matched the rest of this gun. And the other big thing is that these are designed specifically to be low back pressure suppressors. Not really the same as like a Huxworks flow through design, but it really is a low back pressure can. And part of that actually has to do with the sound signature at the shooter's ear. These cans are not going to be the quietest cans in the world when measured out here like normal suppressors are. I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's like off your muzzle to the right or to the left. However many inches or something is like the industry standard for measuring the decibels, which is all fine and dandy. Although as the shooter, your ear is not back out here, it's back here. And so the lower back pressure means that you have less of a pop coming out of your ejection port, which is right next to your ear, making the can quieter at the ear, but not quite as quiet downrange, which honestly, I don't really care about the guy downrange and what the suppressor sounds like to him. I care about what it sounds like to me. Now, hopefully there is no guy downrange, but you know what I mean. If you are in a two-way range, if you are defending your life with this thing, I don't really care what the bad guy hears. I care what I hear. And the whole point of this, being the home defense build, is that I don't want to blow up my hearing and my family's hearing if I ever had to use this to defend our home. I gotta admit, after 11 months of waiting, it is nice to finally have a suppressed 300 Blackout. And it's really nice to have a suppressed 300 Blackout that reliably runs supersonic and subsonic ammo. And it runs reliably. Now, I started this video by talking about trade-offs, pros and cons, that you get with suppressors, because generally, if your suppressor is more compact, it's not going to be quite as quiet. It's not going to be as effective. If it's bigger, it's going to be quieter. If it's more lightweight, it might not be as durable. If, there are all these trade-offs that come with it. And this suppressor is no different. And so the first thing, as far as cons go, it is not the quietest suppressor in the world. And that is something that I noticed the very first day that I took it out. It does a good job of suppressing, especially subsonic 300 Blackout, which is one of the best rounds for suppression anyway, because a big part of the sound signature when you're shooting a gun is that round passing the speed of sound, and you get that supersonic crack. Well, with subsonic ammunition, you don't get that supersonic crack, and so you can get a quieter sound signature suppressing subsonic rounds. Now, 45 ACP is naturally subsonic. You can get 147 grain 9mm that's subsonic. There are lots of other subsonic rounds, but 300 Blackout was specifically designed to run out of a short AR style platform that you could run subsonic, suppressed. They basically designed it to replace the MP5 SD for those kinds of CQB type missions, and it works very well for that. 300 Blackout uses the same bolt, the same magazines. These are 300 Blackout specific magazines, but you can build it in the exact same platform as a 5.56 AR-15. All you really need to do is change the barrel to a 30 caliber barrel, 300 Blackout barrel. The round even uses the same case size, so the same bolt and carrier that you use for your 5.56 AR will work in a 300 Blackout. Now this suppressor, being as compact as it is not going to be as quiet as a bigger, longer suppressor would be. And that's just a reality that if you're looking at this suppressor, you're going to have to be aware of. It is not going to be the quietest can in the world. And so that's something that you have to decide. Is it worth saving your money and getting something longer and quieter? Or does it make more sense to you to get a cheaper can that's nice and compact, that's not quite as quiet? Because to me it was. Now, in the future, do I think that I might get bigger, more effective cans? Well, after using this one, yes, probably so. And that's just me being 100% honest. I think I probably could have gone with a longer can on this short weapons platform and still been perfectly happy with it. But am I perfectly happy with this one the way it is? Yes, I am. And some of the reasons for that being, like I stated in the beginning, the low back pressure really is true. When you're behind the gun, even rapid fire shooting it, I didn't notice any extra gas back to my face, gassing me out, tearing me up, making it hard to breathe or hard to see. Any of that stuff that people talk about shooting suppressed, I have had zero issues with this. And I've put a few hundred rounds through it by now. And I've specifically tried to pay attention to that just to see, and zero issues with that. So if that's something that's important to you, this suppressor really does not add a lot of back pressure into your system, which is really nice. It helps keep the system cleaner, and that is definitely true as well. I've cleaned this gun after shooting it suppressed a few times now, and it doesn't really seem any dirtier than it did when cleaning it after shooting unsuppressed. So that is very nice. Less gas to the face, less carbon back in your system, which can affect reliability and just make cleaning more difficult. And so that is really nice. Also, depending how you have your firearm tuned, that means you might have less issues to deal with when it comes to gassing and buffer weights and springs and stuff like that. Now, I actually was expecting a little more back pressure, and I had this thing a little bit heavily sprung. It ran supersonic ammo just fine, but because it didn't have enough added back pressure, I had to go with a lighter buffer and spring to be able to get it to run subsonic ammo reliably. So the low back pressure, the compact size, the relatively lightweight of it, and all of that really make it, I think, a great buy for the money. It is really difficult to find a suppressor for $500, including tax stamp, that is decent. It seems like it is very well made, very sturdy. From what I've seen, Witt Machine and Tool makes really good products, and I think that this is no exception. Now, when I said that it's not quite as quiet as other cans, that is true, but it is still quiet. You'll see from the shooting footage in this video, I started off with some supersonic ammo, and then, about halfway through that first mag, went into subs, and the next magazine was all subsonic ammo. And you could really tell a big difference in the sound signature between the supers and the subs. And it's nice. When you're shooting subs with this, recoil is very light and the sound signature is not bad at all. I still do choose to wear hearing protection though. I've shot it without hearing protection with subs and you can get away with that. But it's not like movie quality quiet like you can make subsonic 300 Blackout with a bigger suppressor. So be aware of that if you are looking into this can. It's not going to be the quietest can in the world, but it's going to be a heck of a lot quieter than shooting without a suppressor. And so for something like this, for a home defense build, I think it's absolutely perfect. If I had to grab this thing in the middle of the night and the situation got to where I had to actually use it against a home intruder to protect my family's life, I wouldn't have to worry about making sure that I got ear protection on before going and dealing with the situation. And that was the whole point of this build. A grab and go rifle platform that's extremely effective, but also not gonna blow out my hearing, my family's hearing, and disorient any of us, making the situation more difficult to deal with. And that is kind of the whole point of this entire build. And this suppressor fits that role very well. I haven't had a chance to go shoot this thing in the dark at night yet, and so I can't really tell you a whole lot about flash signature reduction. What I can tell you is that the way that 300 Blackout is designed, they use faster burning powders than you get in most rifle cartridges. You get full powder burn in 9 inches of barrel. Then you have an added 4 inches here for your gases to expand and cool. I believe that, flash signature is probably almost next to nothing, even with a suppressor this short on a 300 Blackout, especially with subsonic ammo. But again, I don't have first-hand experience shooting at night yet to be able to tell you that for certain. If you do have any other questions about this suppressor, make sure you drop them in the comments and I'll answer anything that I can. I do reply to every comment and I really enjoy interacting with you guys in the comment section. So let me know what you think. If you have any experience with the Witt Machine and Tool suppressors, including the Dirty 30, the Naughty 9, which is their 9mm suppressor, or the Canuter valve, which is their compact 5.56 can, let me know down in the comments because I need to get a 5.56 can for my newest rifle build, and I need to get a 9mm suppressor for my AR9. And I honestly have been thinking about using the Witt Machine and Tool Naughty 9 for that platform as well. Again, I do like the compactness of it, but at the same time, that gun also has the same length of barrel as this one. So it's a pretty compact gun already anyway. Maybe I'll get a bigger, more effective can for 9mm. We'll see. So if you have any great 9mm or 5.56 recommendations for suppressors, let me know down in there in the comments. 5.56 specifically, I'm looking for this gun, which has a Silencer Co. ASR mount. So something that takes that QD system would be extremely helpful. Other than that, if you like this review of the Witt Machine and Tool Dirty 30, please drop me a thumbs up, subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical, and from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.